Welcome back, Hard Hats and Headspace. This week's guest, Kate Marchant, has joined us to talk about HR, the world of HR, and everything that we can think of that employing people that we've dealt with over the last 15 years since we met. So welcome, Kate. Nice to have you on the podcast.
Stuart, good to see you again. It's been a while, but it's good to catch up again. Since I last saw you, I set up on my own as an HR consultant just before COVID hit. So that was a bit of a shocker. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, haven't looked back. So I kind of like helping a lot of small businesses, well, all sizes
Amazing.
of businesses, kind of like supporting on HR. Also been doing a few bigger HR projects, but yeah, really enjoying it, getting a great variety of work, working with a completely different variety of clients. So yeah, it's good.
It's good fun. I mean, I wasn't good as a consultant because I can't do BD, right? So unless someone gives me the work, right, I'm rubbish at going to find it in the clients, if you like. But I've been following you and your progress on it, because obviously you're always interested in what your friends do and people you've worked with. And I really love your posts that you've been doing on LinkedIn and the way you talk about HR cases, or, I think your last one was about, right, okay, so we follow policy and procedure. You have your policies and procedures and you have to follow them to the letter, but every case is individual. And I'm like, yeah, that's right, actually. And that's how my head works. But, I'm forever trying to reduce the risk, reduce the the reputational risk or the claim risks and whatever I do it. So reading your posts, for me, that I'm like, that makes sense.
I think,
I think you've got a great niche on it.
I think HR is such a dry topic, isn't it? And you can wax lyrical on LinkedIn about, how you need to handle something and all the theoretical stuff behind it. But a lot of people aren't interested in it, and you kind of like need to cut to the chase. And one of the best bits of advice I got when I was first kind of like went out on my own was that no point pretending to be someone you're not on LinkedIn. You need to be yourself. And I like to have a bit of a laugh. I've got a bit of a sense of humour. I also like to tell things how they are, and that's how I guess how I try to make my posts, so that you kind of like cut to the chase. I like a bit of humour, but hopefully it's kind of like resonates with business owners and people that I might work with.
I think it does. I mean, I try and not use your stuff, because that's just the wrong way of putting it, but the way you're putting things across has helped me develop a bit more. And I'm always keen to learn more, having been in a similar field for a long time, and being able to say to people, look, just the way you've written that, you've got your policies and procedures are not quite right, or you've said just the wrong thing. I could help you just say it differently in the way you're writing it, because you've got to remember the person on the other end has their own way of interpreting what you've just said or what you've just written. So be sensible. Each case is different. And I think they need people like you to help them through it. Companies, most of the supply chain that I work with are SMEs, and they mean well, but they want to design and build construction projects to the best of their abilities. And they will do some of the workforce engagement, some of the policies, because they have to have them. Sometimes it might have a deep desire to do better, but don't really know how. Actually, and might do the wrong thing, which is all right, right? You can do the wrong thing now and again. Just put your hands up, say, "Oops,"
Exactly. Yeah,
which is
don't
fine.
cover it up. And I think, I think it is confusing for a lot of business owners, because they think, you have a policy and you have to follow it exactly to the letter of the law. And it's more like you got to think about it almost like a framework, and you have to take individual circumstances into account. It's not about always treating everybody in exactly the same way. And I think that's how a lot of business owners read it, that they have to treat everybody, because I've treated Joe over there in such and such a way, that means I've got to treat Liz over there, but Liz has got a health issue or something, something different about Liz. Then you have to take her situation into account, but still apply the framework or the policy. So I get that it's confusing. And I think employers, managers, whoever it is, it's almost like you just have to cut through the crap and guide them through the process, and work with them all. and, get them to
Yeah.
understand what it is that they're trying to do, trying to achieve.
And that's it. I mean, I clash with our HR. That won't surprise you. From time to time, because we have our
Yeah.
policies in place.
Yeah.
And it's usually the health and safety department, to be honest. It's not usually the HR team.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we have a hard, fast rules. This person's done this, they go off our site and they don't return. You're like, no, you can't do that. You can't be like that because that might affect someone's employment, right? And we don't want to end up as a secondary respondent in a tribunal. Well, that's not going to happen, Stu. It might, because our actions might make them step outside of their disciplinary procedures that they didn't want to do. So you've got to be careful. And things that are coming up like the prescribed use of cannabis and, early clinical tests on MDMA for treating different illnesses. And you're like, oh, well, we've got 0%, we're zero tolerance policy on drug abuse. Well, it's not abuse, it's use. It's medical, it's been prescribed. So that's kind of going to unsteady the ship. And it could be because of a neurodiversity or
Exactly.
treatment for cancer, and all these things. So, yes, there's rules in place. There's a framework. Ultimately,
Exactly.
that ability to determine the outcome for you or for your business, you have to go, could I have done something different? Is this action the only one I could have taken? And I think people are afraid of that.
I think so. And I think also, HR, employment law, it's not black or white, is it? It's pretty much always grey.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always laugh when someone comes to me with well, we've got this grievance, Kate, or there's some issue, pretty straightforward. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I bet it's not straightforward,
It
and,
won't be.
or you get, Kate, could you investigate this? But, you probably don't, you probably just need a couple of hours, right? Because, it's really straightforward. And I'm going, yeah, okay. And then I say, well, look, I'll tell you what, I'll do an investigation, but let me investigate. And you can bet your bottom dollar it never is straightforward, because once you get into the detail, it can often put a completely different perspective on what the employer or the manager thinks is the situation. It's just, it's a massive, Charles, it's so interesting. Kind of like, it is really, really interesting, but it's a massive area and it's a massive subject. And a lot of it, yes, you've got your employment law, yes, you've got your policies, but sometimes it's actually just about having the right conversations with people.
Yeah.
And I recently kind of qualified as a workplace mediator, last year.
Yeah.
And that's really that's kind of like, I love that because it is much more about the conversation. So it's really about, well, okay, let's go through a grievance. You've got a grievance procedure, which is supposed to be there to deal with employee issues, but it never does because you're
No,
always,
it's too late then.
it's too late. And you're kind of like putting the responsibility for making the decision on who's right or wrong in the hands of someone else. So you've lost control. As an employee, you've lost control of what that outcome might be. The mediation is completely different. It's about kind of like understanding each other's perspectives, and it's a lot of, one-to-one conversations and then bringing people together to look at how they work, they move forward. And honestly, who would, you want that, don't you? I'm kind of
You
jumping
do.
around
I mean,
completely. Start talking
no,
about
that's
something
fine.
else. But it is often so much about having the right conversations at the right time. And it often can be that simple.
Right. Don't ever buy a Sky Glass telly. It just does that.
What?
I'll leave that in.
That's
And I
going it on.
it's just going well. No, it just turns on. You just move and it goes, oh, hello, you're awake. But all of those things, I love the mediation piece. So what do you do? I don't know this, actually. I told you. When I was at the JIB, a large part of my job was mediation and arbitration. It depends what day of the week you were, whether you called it, which one. And I used to like go in and run in between the two parties. I had
Yeah.
Northern Ireland, by the way, as one of my regions. So I used to go to Belfast and, and happily, this would probably get me some stick, but happily ignorant of the stories behind the troubles and the differences, right? I just treat people as people, and that's probably a good thing. And it used to get results because I wasn't that bothered about didn't like each other on that side. It was like, you're okay, you're at work. The ultimate inclusivity, really, just treat people as people. But I used to go over there and you'd be in one room and they'd be like, he's done this and he got to go. And, I had to get rid of him. And he goes to the room, he's like, I was having all these problems at home. And, or whatever the reason was for it. Just trying to bring people that little bit closer together. You couldn't always make them go like that, but you might be able to save the employment relationship. So you're right. The mediation is, I'm a massive fan, and I think done well, it can make the business go really well, and you retain people, right?
Well, you do, and I think other employee, it's a kind of like knock-on effect it has, because other employees will say, "God, well, look, they were at each other's throats, and look at them now.
Yeah,
They're kind of like they're best buddies." And okay, that doesn't always happen, but it's quite often the situation that once that people actually sit down and kind of like understand different each other's perspective, their perspectives are actually not always that different,
yeah,
or there's something else going on that they're not aware of, and they're like, "Oh God, yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't think about that." And
yeah,
it's a better conversation and a more positive way forward than
yeah.
going through this protracted, a grievance is just like a game of chess, and I think people get obsessed by, right, they've said that, right, this is my next move. Take that. Checkmate.
Got ya. And you're like, oh shit! Now, no one really wins, right? Because
Well, of course they don't, and that's the whole
because
thing.
it's a
You've got,
grievance stage. You're not in a tribunal. You're not getting a payout from it if you win, or whatever.
and you
Um,
can bet your life that at least one of the parties in the grievance. So if someone hears a grievance and it says, "Well, look, actually, the facts as I see them are that I actually support the manager, or I support the manager's
yeah,
perspective, support their case, and not yours," then you think, well. Then we have a situation, oh God, well, how are they going to work together again? The
yeah.
employee normally doesn't want to, so they'll probably go sick. And, it just it spirals into something that's massively difficult to manage.
And it could have been nipped earlier. I've just given some advice to a colleague on the proviso of, this is my guidance, you use it or not, right? Because I am not
Yeah,
insured
exactly that.
or all that stuff to do it, right? But this is the employee who's having some issues in the workplace, and his wife's a colleague. So she says, "Oh, Stu, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Just go through everything with me. Just send me everything before I give you an opinion." So I went through it, and I'm like, God, why didn't they sit down at the beginning?
Exactly.
Because actually what the guy is asking for is perfectly reasonable. But and its new line manager comes in, they just don't get on. And try as the employee might, the management style of the new person is it just it ended up, this person's off with stress for a long time, 6 months I think now. Like, this person's been in the business, that business 15, 16, 17 years. You can't just come in and go, right, new management style, you're not doing it my way, and just not
Yeah.
budging. Well, I can't be that bad. I've been here, a decade and a half.
Yeah.
They could have had a chat at the beginning. And who's managing the new manager, And yeah,
It
early
is
chat,
difficult.
early honest conversation.
Yeah. And you get new managers, they want to make their mark on, they want to come and make their stamp, do big things. And quite often that just pisses people off, to be honest, doesn't it? And
Yeah,
sometimes you do have situations where there is a personality clash, and sometimes you do have to take action, whatever that action is. You can't always sit and say, well, mediation's going to solve all the world's problems, but it solves a lot of them. Even if you got to the point where actually, no, mediation hasn't worked in this situation, so now we've got a clearer way forward as to what we need to do. At least you've given it a
yeah,
go, but it's conversation. It's like we've lost the art of conversation, like people don't talk
yeah.
to each other anymore. They start firing emails off of each other. And before you know,
Oh,
you've just got this thing. And it's like, well, if you'd just spoken to each other, you might have resolved this in like 5 minutes. It's like crazy.
it is so true. Keyboard warriors.
Oh, I love them.
I when I got diagnosed with ADHD, one of the things that I decided to do, and it was a tip from the prof, was get a diary, go back to a paper diary, Stu. And the biggest problem is no one else can accept it just because my Teams thing has got a green light on that I'm not available. That's the issue.
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
But aside from that, it means I can put my book, I've got my phone or whatever, but then I go to sat and talk to people and hear issues. So I do workforce engagement meetings every month. Love doing these. You sit down and I just go, "What company are you from?" Don't tell me your name, right? Because there are critics that'll say, "Well, if you put your head above the parapet, you'll be gone," and I hear that a lot. And so I want to
Yeah.
prove that that's not the case by not knowing their name. But you do get to know people, and you sit there, and I was in one meeting, and the employee was going, "Oh, my employer's this, and my employer's that." I knew it wasn't true. And I'm their client, so they're moaning to the client. And this was a moan; it wasn't a genuine concern. Right, we can either put this in the minutes and go through all the process, or I can just tell you you're wrong, because and this is why you're wrong, and we can move on. Someone else in the meeting went, "Just you, thank fuck you said that." Like, I was like, "Oh," because we all know that as well. And this individual's like, "Oh, right." So look, we're not ganging up on you, but you do this every month, and we just need to tell you it's not your company's fault. This is the process, and we, Mace or Mr. Goddess or whatever, tell them what to do. They work on our thing. This thing happened because of this thing and this thing. So there's the facts. That's just facts there. Take your opinion and stick them in with facts, and then and see how you get. Not done it since, because I had an honest chat. They might think I'm a prick and think you shouldn't have said that. Oh, well, I'm not telling him those things again. But I think you can stop a lot of that by just going, "Excuse me, that's not where we're coming from."
Yeah. Yeah. I think
But
no, definitely. I think people just people need to be able to disagree with people again and not have a not without it going completely ballistic. You don't have to agree with everybody all the time, and if you don't agree with them, then it's not personal. And I think sometimes if people are just open to someone saying, like you did, well, look, sorry, mate, but I think you're wrong. I don't have that
yeah,
opinion. This is why I don't have that opinion. Still mates, we'll still go and have a beer together, or in my case, a pint of wine. But
I look at those situations, and it's an art, and I know you've got this as well. And is that ability to still walk out of that room and go, "Want a brew?" Next
yeah,
time, she,
yeah,
"How are you? How's your daughter, son, whatever? How's this bit in your life going?" And not fall out. No, don't need to fall out just because you don't disagree. You don't agree. It's important. And you building relationships and seeing people. This is where I do think going back to work, going back to the office. Sorry, do you are
or
at
I think
work?
going back into the office.
Into the office, right? There are benefits to that. I
Yes,
think the
I
social
would agree.
interaction.
Oh, I don't know. I think sometimes it's also just. I think in HR it is quite difficult because you have to and you've done it, I've done it. You have to sometimes go and to talk to a manager and or your CEO, who's quite a senior person, and basically say, look, I think you've been a bit of an arsehole.
Yeah,
Do- You know,
yeah.
and sort of thing. And I always probably didn't use those words. Actually, I might have done personally, but
To be fair, with Graham, you could have done. I'm only saying his name because he listens to these.
oh God, hi Graham. I think I probably did it to me. You just sort of said, look, I just think you've got it wrong. I think you've been unreasonable. But I think, you do need to have the right. Sometimes you have to have a good relationship in the first place to be able to say that to someone. And I think
Yes, it's about
luckily
respect.
I've generally been able to say that. And people might go, after they've probably had a go at me and said, well, what do you think you're talking about? Of course I'm right. But you just have to keep chipping away. And it's an art of just trying to get the person around to seeing it from a different angle, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's not always. Often it just isn't the employee being awkward. It's the manager, and it's the work you have to do with the manager to get them to a position where they can go in and hold this disciplinary hearing. They can go in or have this absence management meeting. And it's difficult. Sometimes
Yeah,
you just have to be quite honest, and sometimes people appreciate that.
yeah. being blunt, I think you and I have been doing this a while,
Kind
and
of.
you think, right, how am I going to get them round to the right way of thinking? How am I going to be the politician with a small p
Mm,
to get us safely to the right place with the employee
yeah.
still intact and the business still making money or best we can? And I think the favorite skill I've got of my own, I probably learnt this in the 4 or so years we were working together, was, okay, it needs to be their idea, but it's my idea, but somehow they need to think it's their idea. And
Yes.
between their engineering brain and my employee relations brain, we'll get there. So you
Yeah.
start off going, "Oh, have you thought about this? Yeah, you're fucking doing that." And then 3 weeks later, I've had an idea. Have you? Okay. Oh, that sounds marvelous. In your head, you're like, it got there.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I know it's quite satisfying, isn't it? And but I mean, I bet you have you ever had situations where you think, okay, I've got this situation and I know it needs to go in a certain direction. And you're thinking, I don't think I'm not sure I can do it. How am I going to do it? And you think, oh God. I remember once I won't, obviously I'm not going to mention names, but it was at the
No, no.
company beginning it with S. And
Yes.
I was dreading the discussion. There was a discussion about potential redundancy. Prepped the
Mm.
very senior person to do it. Before the meeting started, I said, I just need to nip to the loo. Anyway, went.
Don't need those details,
I went
Kate.
to the loo. I was so scared. I had to go to the loo. And when I came back, the senior manager had already called the manager into
Oh,
the meeting and they'd already started. I was like, what in God's name? And I was like, what hell am I going to walk into? And I did walk into it. It was really quite a difficult situation. And I was really annoyed with the guy, the manager, the senior manager. We sort of turned it around, but it made it much more difficult because of how he
mm,
handled that meeting, because he had a bit of a grudge against this person. And, I think we were always going to go through a settlement, but I had to work quite hard with the employee, and they were devastated, they were losing a
yeah,
job they've been in for a long time. I've had to spend quite a lot of time with them, but we're still friends. We still get on. And I think for me, having been in quite a lot of difficult HR situations, I kind of pride myself on the fact that not everybody, a lot of people will think she's a complete cow. I know that. And I'm not. Thank you.
you're
But
not. You're not. I'm sorry,
there
that was
are,
my cue to say you're not there, wasn't it?
like, thanks, so spontaneous. But there's a lot of people I am still friends with that I
Yeah,
might have been involved in their exit, and I think they appreciate, as you can imagine they would, just being treated with some dignity and having that
yeah.
communication in place. But yeah, it can go out of control, and there's been some times where I just thought, oh God, I don't know if we can get back.
How do we rein this back?
Can I go to the loo again?
Just let you have a fight and someone maybe just make it easier for me.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I, yeah, similar times I had to, as the labour manager, the trades from 160-ish to about 100.
Mm,
And not much has changed in this arena. Labour manager, like, well, you manage the labour. You're the boss. And I didn't know that, by the way, before I took the job. I thought it was going to be treated like HR. It was my first one into that role. And you're like, whoo, what am I doing here? Um, I'm sure plenty of people thought that as well. But it was weird. I did them on my own. I would bring some supervisors in that did scoring and stuff. And I did them over 3 weeks, one after the other. Right. And I didn't sleep properly for those 3 weeks.
no, I bet.
Because it proper, and I thought that's how it was done. Right? I thought, I knew the process and procedure was right, but I thought, I can't bring a supervisor off a job he's working. I can't bring a manager off a job because they're building things.
Yeah.
No, they should have been there because it was their
Mm.
decision to make this reduction.
No,
So,
that's exactly that.
and I
Exactly
didn't
that.
agree with it all, but I have to manage the unions as well as go through
Yeah.
the process and whatever. And I remember, I remember sitting going in Poyle. Those glass things, still
Yeah.
there, that building.
We love.
Till we do a new runway, I just go through every single one. Some people come in and go, you know, Stu, we knew this is coming, right? We've had a good ride. What we're getting? You're like, oh, I love you. Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
And
I was
then,
thinking, "Oh God."
oh God, give me some money. I'll get another job. It's fine. And then you're like, oh, that was easy. I've gone through all this bloody process. Why didn't you volunteer? I would have given it you anyway. And then you had the other end where, you know, the union officials in there arguing, and you're like, you're arguing over a point and it's going to make no difference. You go in, you know, because I just don't have the work. And it's not my fault, actually. And I'm getting the pelters. It's the person who didn't win the job. It's their fault.
Yeah.
Or our fault as a business, whatever it might be. And then I see them now. I still see people that were apprentices for us, that were trades that are older than me, you know, the plumbers that had been there since they started their apprenticeship and have just retired, you know, and all right, gaffer. I don't know. I always used to find that weird that people would say that. And you see them out in Dubai, they've got their own businesses, and they get in touch and ask for advice. You're like, that made you redundant. They're like, yeah, but you were nice about it. You were decent. You were honest. You were straight. We understood. Time was up. Time to move on. Wow. And I think that shaped me well. It was hard. You know, the personal toll was hard. I only realised that years later. But the experience for my career has been immeasurable.
Yeah, I bet it has. And I think, you know, only not to be too dark, but for a minute, and not wanting to like everyone to think, oh God, you know, get your violins out for HR and you know what you do. But it is difficult, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I worry, you know, I worry at night. It affects my sleep sometimes, the stuff that you're doing about getting it wrong. And, you know, when you are going through like a big change project, I mean, I've just done a couple recently and with a big, I'm not going to mention names, but with a beachy establishment, it was full on, probably the
Yeah.
most fullest on I've ever been in my life. And it was really difficult to switch off. And it was quite difficult at night. I'd be waking up and be thinking, you know, you start kind of like almost catastrophizing a
Yeah.
small situation and thinking, well, what of this? What happens if this happens? What about this? And then you get to the morning and you think, well, what was all that about? And you know it's daft,
You're
but you still
processing it
do
then.
it and you kind of, yeah, you know, and you end up, and then you're tired and you have to kind of like give people your best, haven't you? You know, so it is difficult. So do get the violins out.
Yeah, yeah, get me. Yeah, big ones and all. Cellos almost.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still a lot of the world that think HR is like old personnel,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that's how people saw labour management. It's like old school personnel. Just give it to labour manager. I saw it, and you know, I love, you know, I never claim to be 100% appropriate. You know, it's the memes you get, you know, with the little guy, he's always walking off to HR to explain why I've called the new guy Shania Twain because he don't impress me much. You're like, oh, you know, I just love them. And whilst it's the intention probably of the person who does it is taking the piss, actually, you think you find some fun into what we do into HR because it's, you know, there's a lot of stuff you can't talk about, you know, settlements and all that stuff, and it's private and confidential. But then the stuff, the real things you get through, you're like, how do I deal with this now? And it is funny.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's not in the HR sort of handbook. I mean, my best example of it's not in the HR handbook, and this is, I've sort of told you about this before, was like when I worked at before SPI, when I worked at a security company, and we dismissed someone for gross misconduct for sleeping on the job. And they hadn't just fallen asleep, they brought in a camp bed, they had a sleeping bag. You know, it was like there was an intention there to sleep.
Yeah.
So at the time, and you know, this is a long time, he was dismissed for gross misconduct. So we told him that up there and then on the day. He wasn't very happy, let's put it that way. And I then said to him, well, look, you know, we do need to have your equipment back, and that includes your uniform. And he had his uniform on. And he went, well, I'll give you my uniform back now. And he just stripped down to his underpants. I was stood there, me and this manager, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do next. I really, you know, this isn't at page 24, annex, you know, appendix, whatever, section B. What on earth do I do? And I was kind of like,
Listen,
I was quite early into my HR, like, I was an HR officer, I think, at the time. I was like, oh my God, what the hell do I do? And then I sort of asked, I said, look, you know, you're going to have to go home like this. So you probably, it's autumn, it's getting a bit cold. So probably, look, put your clothes back
Mhm.
on, bring them back in. And he still wouldn't do it. And then he started taking his glasses off. His lens fell out of his glasses. And he was like, "Oh, what you made me do?" Anyway, we eventually got him to put his clothes back on and off he went. And this was after about quite a long time. After I came out of the room, I think everybody else had kind of like, there was a little glass window. And I think people, I think, what the hell's going on in there? When I came out, my lovely colleagues had been to the off license, got me a glass of wine, came out the door, handed me a wine, and I just like nipped it. And I was like, oh my
You need that.
God. And it was the stuff of, it was the stuff of legends. Anyway, he did send his uniform back, took us to a tribunal. But I don't think did he turn up? I think he did. I can't remember. Do you know? I don't think he turned up. And yeah, that was the best example I can give you. It's not in the rule book.
Yeah, I mean, there are. I can't really tell you mine because there's might get in trouble. But there are just those moments where you go, "I'm not sure what to do with you now."
I've nowhere to go here.
Like when it's the owner of the business. So I've had two of them that
Oh,
I've worked with for the owner, and not my current one, thankfully. They should make a decision to employ someone, and then this person turns up, and you're like, "Hello, yeah, can I help you?" Yeah, start today. What? Who's employed you? 'Cause, so I was the HRD in name, for that business, and he's just sitting there. There's this random person, like very confident in themselves. You're like, oh, did you meet that owner and he's offered you a job? Tell me to start today. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. But that's also not in a handbook. And you're
well,
like, it's supposed to be a professional business. Yeah. Like, right. Okay. Truly, they just stood there, proper, done up to the nines to impress on the first day. You're like, oh, I know who this is. You wander over to the reception desk. Hello, are you all right? Who are you? I'm starting today. Obviously, I'm not going to say the name. That ended up in a tribunal
did it?
after I'd left. Yeah,
Oh, so he joined and stayed.
yeah, it's not for long. So
Surprising.
yeah, this is a whole bizarre thing. And then I went on holiday, come back, and spoke to the line manager, and they said that this person that's been employed doing a job, not doing anything. Like, this is not here or not making any calls. What do we do, Stu? I was like, how long have we been here? Oh, 2.5 months. And I thought, actually, I quite fancy this one because we've messed it up before he came in, so it can't get any worse. The person came in, and this person so on day 2, this person declared an illness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, right, okay. I was like, fuck all you can do now, Stu. Right, so is there anything you need from us as a business? Any reasonable adjustments we can make? Assistance we can give? Please, maybe we should send you for a health assessment or whatever. Have a think about it. Let me know. Day 2, thinking, shit, this is going to cost. And then roll on to 2.5 months in. I've been away for 2 weeks in Spain, come back. I was getting texts while I was out there going, this person's a twat, not doing any work. Shit. With this person, I go, oh, how are you doing? All right, yeah. Well, how's your results? I mean, you get KPIs and yeah, well, I meet them. You're not though, because we have a system that manages your calls and your emails and stuff on their work. I use my personal phone and my personal email. Well, you're not allowed to do that. You made that clear. That's why we give you a phone and a laptop and an email address.
Oh,
Have you been in the office? Yeah, as agreed. I had to work at home 2 days a week. This is sales, at meeting people sales as well.
oh,
So I said, is there anything? Oh, sorry. Before I asked all these questions, I was like, is everything okay? Is there anything with your illness that's stopping you from doing your work? That,
oh.
like I said on day 2. No, absolutely nothing. There's nothing at all that I need from you. It's fine, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So why aren't you doing your job? Well, I am. Well, you're not. And you just go around in really long those
Yeah.
circles. But in short, you're not doing your job. And there's no sign of you doing your job and no record of you doing your job. And you're getting paid really well. So I have to let you go. It's like, you can't just do that. I was like, I can. I've offered you all the opportunities and support you could possibly have. Because you think, I don't know, this person's never going to work. Like literally never going to do any work. And think they can get away with it. Interestingly, I then got in touch with people. I knew it was previous employers. And then I went and I bumped into them. at a do, an industry do, where they went, "Oh, you employed this person. Tried to take us to tribunal. Turn out didn't have any of the illnesses." I was like, "You could have told me that before." You're like, "Well, just it's your problem. You got that person now." Bloody hell! But by this
Um,
point, I was at Mace when I found that out. I'm like, "Well, my problem now." Just bizarre. All of it. None of it was in the playbook, right? For being an HR person, you've got to think on your feet and manage up as well as down and across and sideways. I think that skill, that employee relations skill, I call it, really is a massive part of what we do.
yeah, massively. I think the whole area around kind of like disability, long-term ill health,
Mm,
and all that kind of stuff, I think personally is kind of like almost like one of the most. It's the area that a lot of managers, business owners can't get their heads round, and they do need
yeah,
help with it. And it's not always, it isn't always easy, but sometimes it can be made easier once they just understand what they need to do, and the people like you or I can help guide them through it. And
yeah.
it's not, you can't just sit there and say, well, you know, I'm not letting bloody Fred work from home because that's going to really piss everyone else off. It's like, well, that's not the point, unfortunately. You've
No,
got to help Fred. You've got to remove those barriers for Fred. And if working at home a couple of days a week or whatever that looks like, that's what you have to do, you know,
yeah.
because the other people don't suffer from what Fred's got. And I don't know, it's difficult. And you really have to work quite closely with the managers to get them to kind of see that.
And I think you look at, it's not just the small ones as well. I look
Oh,
at the recent EAT decisions or tribunal decisions, as well as the Capgemini one with the ADHD worker and not making reasonable adjustments for that person that were probably very reasonable and achievable had they asked the right people.
yes, right.
And then there was the McQueen versus General Optical Council that Nancy talked about on previous podcast about this person was really aggressive in meetings and would blame it on dyslexia and autism and took a claim to the tribunal saying the employer didn't put things in place and it has got rid of me because of my autism. My anger in meetings is down to my autism. Well, actually the EAT, the tribunal and the EAT found in favour of the employer and said, basically, you can't use that as an excuse.
Yeah, I think that was one of the ones I posted about quite a couple of months ago as well. And it's like it was about the debate of, can some mental health condition, can it excuse bad behaviour? And in most cases
Yeah.
it can't. It doesn't excuse
No.
it. But you have to make sure you've done your homework, if you like, in terms of what you've put in place. But it doesn't mean to say that anybody can go around being angry and insulting people,
Yeah.
you know, even
I
if it is.
think you have reasonable adjustments, and they're called reasonable for a reason, right? Because it's
Yeah.
reasonable to expect you to do things to help people do their job, right? So if you're being unreasonable as an
Mm.
individual, your neurodivergence isn't an excuse, right? So I am brilliant on short deadlines. I'm a bit crap on really long deadlines.
Me too.
Monthlies I can probably cope with.
Mm.
But it's not an excuse for me not to do it. I've still got to do my job, and I take a bollocking now and again from one of my clients because they go, "Where's your report?" Shit. But then I deliver the best report they've ever had because I've had an hour to do it. And I take that on the chin because, I need to be better. So put in my diary, make sure you got your reports done for tomorrow. But if I'm a twat about it, it doesn't matter that I have ADHD. I'm an idiot for the way I've acted. The fact that I have ADHD doesn't give me license to be an idiot and forget. I need to put things in place to meet my thing.
Yeah.
And then that applies in whether you're aggressive in the workplace, whether you're say the wrong thing, right? We talked before about Tourette's, and Paul Stevenson's an incredibly good friend of mine, but he will be the first to admit it's really hard to suppress tics, verbal tics, the things he shouldn't say. And sometimes it's because his brain knows he shouldn't say them, then they out. Now you can imagine
Mm.
that could be a nightmare in the workplace.
Absolutely,
Well,
yeah.
okay, what we need to do is make sure people are aware of respecting Paul and helping him, or respecting a person with Tourette's, not be laughed at. And he had a great line when I met him, right? I don't mind you laughing with me as long as you cry with me. So have some sympathy for what I'm going through when I'm struggling at work and those situations. Now, if everything's in place and those things still happen, then you're like, okay, first of all, are you really not saying, it's not an excuse for you to just say what you want now, but there's some responsibility on everyone to do their best with things that are in place. And I think our employer friends need to understand, look, you do your best by those individuals to make it easy for them to come to work and be their best when they're at work. Right?
Well, I think,
It's then
yeah.
on them.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And I think it's just also, the thing about reasonable adjustments, the employer has to decide what's reasonable. And I think it is a higher bar, the kind of like the bigger employer you are, then the
Yeah.
higher bar for what reasonable might look like. Well, the bar is higher for what reasonable might look like, as opposed to you being a very small business owner, things like cost and practicality, what depends what the situation is. But some of it can just be so simple.
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes it's about, well, just don't dismiss that. Let's just sit down and think about it. Is it reasonable? Can you do it? Will it help? Is it low cost? And well, why not?
Sometimes it's no cost.
Yeah. And
Sometimes
it's
there's no cost to it.
no, well, a lot of the time it's no cost. It's just kind of sometimes sort of almost wanting to say to someone, come on, mate, make an effort. Think about
Yeah.
it. Don't just say no. Don't just dismiss the idea. But yeah, it's a,
I hear some of my friends go, it's always one way to the employee.
no.
Just stop that. Stop it now. Right?
Yeah.
Stop being a child. And you can, well, I always have to give them stuff. You own the business. It's one way, right? You give them
Well,
stuff, they produce you money.
well,
Right?
well,
You get the better deal, trust me, if
yeah,
you
exactly.
run your business properly. So don't be a child about it. Yes, Debbie might have SAD, seasonal
Yeah,
disorder,
yeah.
right? And therefore need to sit by the window in the summer and, I don't know, go and work in Barbados at Christmas or something, have
Yeah, yeah,
adjustments
I
that
know what you mean.
just mean you could swap desks so that you get the light and you're not looking outside at the dark skies. That's free. It is half an hour picking up a computer and swapping desks with Mike. I'm making this up as I go, right? But
Yeah, yeah, I know.
the idea is
Yeah.
talking to that company, that SME, going, why are you why is it a blanket no? Please, for the love of God, use your brain and just go, excuse me, can you swap desks with this person? Yeah, ace. Do it then. We'll carry on working now. Huh, that's a reasonable adjustment. It cost you
Yeah,
10 minutes, probably. A
yeah.
productive time and a lifetime of, he's good, him. Because he actually just, thought about it and like, oh, just sit there then. It's simple, isn't
Well,
it? On our own. So, running HR, running well? Busy?
yeah, I've had a really, really busy year. I'm having I'm kind of like having a couple of weeks out, and then I'm going on holiday next week. I'm back with new vigor.
Amazing.
Definitely want to kind of I want to get on doing some more mediation work because that's what I enjoy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's one of those things. If I'd known that I'd really like having my own business, I would have done it so much sooner. But yeah, it's been great. I mean, honestly, I've had such a wide ranging experience of different businesses, different situations. And it's kind of almost, this sounds really corny, right? But it's kind of like helped me rediscover or even discover a love of HR. Because I'm not sure. Because, I think working in like the corporate world, you end up getting sucked into HR isn't doing HR anymore. It's actually managing egos and it's
Yeah.
playing corporate fucking politics all the time. That you actually, you're not doing HR. And I think that's what I wasn't enjoying. So come out, have your own business. I'll go in and whatever it is I'm doing. But a lot of the time I'll go in, I'll carry out an investigation, I'll do a grievance, I'll do a disciplinary, or I'll go into do something, a project. And it's always really, really interesting, but it's just got me much more interested in HR, back into the I've always liked employment law. It's always been really interesting to me, but
Yeah.
I'm enjoying what I do so much more because it is just less of the ego management,
Yeah.
and more of the HR stuff and
Make,
helping business owners. And do you know
yeah.
what? I think all I want in life is for people to be grateful, and they are grateful, and that's what
Yeah.
is great. I really love it,
Making HR personal again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Really.
yeah. It's just making it personal. It's just cutting through the crap, really. And I think just being pragmatic. Um, I think, at the end of the day, you can't, you just have to sort of sit there and say, well, look, these are the options open to you. You can do this. This is how it's going to end if you go down that way. Could try a
Okay.
little bit in the middle. Don't know. This might be the proper way, but it's just weighing up, isn't it? What is in that
What's the
situation as
right
a
way?
business owner. So yeah, it is. No, it's been great. I've been really enjoying it, and I don't know whether it's been. I think, God, I hope there aren't going to be any business coaches listening to this podcast. I think some of it has been luck because I haven't necessarily always defined my ideal client. I haven't necessarily
Yeah,
niched, and it's all right, everybody. I don't need any help with that. But it's gone well for what I want it to be. It's
that's
gone
amazing.
brilliant.
That is, I get that. Right. I am where I am, and I love working in the job I do for my employer. Right, for me. So they're good business. And I've had opportunity to go elsewhere, by the way. There's not many
No,
IR people
no,
in the
there aren't.
world. But there's
I mean
lots
that
of
nicely.
projects that want, yeah, no, absolutely. And there's lots of projects that want me. And do you know what? I go, and so a lot of them are paying more money, by the way. You can listen to that bit. But I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. And you know what? The extra money wouldn't make up for it.
Yeah.
There's the corny stuff, right? I've drank the Mace Kool-Aid, and I go into work and I sit on the Thames link. And the irony is it always gets stuck outside the Speedy depot by Blackfriars. You're like, it's supposed to be stuck. It's supposed to be moving this train. I'm looking at signs of Speedy. And you walk around and look around out of the train. I'm like, oh, we built that. Oh, we built that. Oh, we built that. Oh, we built that. This is Macetown, right? So I've got
Yeah.
that bit. But I like seeing my work in action. The bit I was saying earlier where I drop a little seed into someone and then I go off and visit a load of other projects and I come back to that project and they go, oh, we've done this thing, Stu. What do you think? You're like, oh, brilliant. Yeah, that was me. It's brilliant. I love it. So I will share links. I just want to look Kate up on LinkedIn just because some of your advice on HR is both funny and real and makes it personal, and all your contact details on there as well, including your phone number in your thing. I was like, that's brave.
No one uses phones these days, so it's fine.
Yeah, I know. I think I sent you a message on LinkedIn rather than a text, didn't I? Look, I'm glad you're doing well. Really lovely to catch up as well.
Yeah, you
And
too. Do it again sometime, and yeah, it's
yeah,
been lovely.
we might do it
Maybe
in
we should go
person
out.
next time.
Maybe we should go out for beer.
That sounds brilliant. Always up for that.
Yeah,
We'll sort
me
that
too.
out. Brilliant. All right. Thanks, Kate. Lovely having you on. See you soon.
Oh, thanks, Stu. Bye.